as this week's edition of NXT was more of a recap show of the year and the people that have came from the show, etc., there wasn't really much to say about the show. There was a lot of video package segments on there, a lot of recapping segments, etc. So I thought instead of talking about all that, I'll talk about some NXT stars that I feel will be on the main roster one day. Just look at some people that have come up from NXT and have gone into the WWE roster, and then where I think the journey needs to go from there. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about the Performance Center, which is something that WWE brought in earlier this year, which looks like a great facility. If nothing more, it should provide a good, if not the best platform to try and train new stars to the point where you can actually try and create new stars and get them, wound to the business and what to do in a wrestling ring, etc. So the Performance Center is a good start for this company if they want to create some new stars, which I believe they need to do big time. We're going to look at some stars on the NXT roster that could make it to the roster one day. Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn doesn't necessarily possess the traits of a world champion or a main eventer, but people sure do seem to like him. And at the end of the day, isn't it all about pleasing the fans? Isn't it all about how much the fans cheer for you, etc.? So Sami Zayn, I feel, could be some kind of star for WWE, even if it's just at a mid-card level. Alexander Rusev, a rare breed in WWE, a big guy. I think WWE down the line are definitely going to need some big guys. Big Show hasn't got long left. Kane is not really wrestling anymore. Mark Henry hasn't got long left. Biggie Langston could be classed as that, but I don't think he's necessarily a big man. Alexander Rusev is that. So I think if WWE is going to push a big man, it'll either be Brodus Clay and or Alexander Rusev down the line. Aiden English, purely because he is something that the WWE just hasn't got. And that is someone who just is an entertainer. The guy, his gimmick is very unique. He's a singer. WWE haven't really got a gimmick like that going for them right now. Enzo Amore, more so as a manager than a wrestler. I don't really think he'll ever be taken seriously as a wrestler, but the guy is a great talker. The guy is a fantastic talker. I love hearing this guy on the mic. He is so entertaining. Let him manage someone who can't talk, and he could be really good, not just for that person, but very entertaining too. Paige and Emma, and Summer Rae as well, who's already kind of on the roster. They're two women, in my opinion, that are really standing out on NXT. I'm not counting Summer Rae because she is actually already on the roster right now. They're really standing out in WWE. Paige is the anti-diva. Emma is the entertainment diva. People really love Emma, and people love to watch Paige wrestle. Them two are two people that could be involved in the Divas division at some point down the line. And one wild card I'm going to include here is Mojo Rawley. He hasn't necessarily been on the roster for long, but he's getting over very quickly. He's full of energy, and he's got the size, he's got the look, in my opinion, and he just seems like one of those wrestlers that is just primed to be in the main event for WWE. He really does. I believe he has a football background as well, which kind of helps sometimes, but Mojo Rawley, in my opinion, is a wild card, and I say wild card because I'm not 100% on this, but he seems like the kind of guy WWE would push, in my opinion. So we've got some NXT stars there that I believe could make it to the roster one day. We have had some people come from NXT going to WWE. Biggie Langston is the current Intercontinental Champion. He came in with a bang, had a quiet year, and then he won the IC Championship, and now WWE seems to be pushing him really hard going into the new year. The Wyatt family really got an NXT, and now they're being involved in some big storylines. There have been rumours that, the main event of WrestleMania 30 might be John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. What more of a bigger spot can you give to a young star like Bray Wyatt? The Shield, they've been beating everyone. I mean, they had a lot more steam at the start of the year than they have now, but they've been tag team champions, US champion, and they've done some big things in WWE. Damian Sandow, he won Money in the Bank. You could say his momentum has fallen, and that is very true, but he still won Money in the Bank. Fandango, his steam has gone, but he did beat Chris Jericho in his first match of WrestleMania, so at least at one point WWE were high on him. Now they're not. AJ Lee, a Divas champion that maybe I could actually give a little bit of a shit about. It's always a good accomplishment in WWE. And Antonio Cesaro, he feels a much more of a bigger deal on NXT than he does in WWE TV, but he's still a long-term US champion, and I think he still does have something to offer WWE. I really do. I just think the booking hasn't exactly been great for Antonio Cesaro. I think he's another example of a good talent that WWE just haven't really brought the most out of, in my opinion. So there are a couple of people who I think they've come from the WWE roster, the NXT roster, and made it somehow in WWE. But here's the problem. it's WWE's job. You know, this all fine and good having a performance center and bringing them through NXT and putting them in big spots on TV, but it's WWE's job to make them into stars. And this is where they generally fall off the boat, and it's kind of what I was talking about on the SmackDown review with Ryback being up here and then all of a sudden just being down here. I think that WWE, to some degree, has the talent, you know, in there to create some main eventers. I just don't think the WWE itself has what it takes to make them into stars. I mean, they've made stars out of John Cena, Batista, Randy Orton, but you look at guys like, you know, Steve Austin, you know, it was a WWE creation like Hulk Hogan. Was that really a WWE? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. But you just look at their track record with guys like Ryback, you know, who was at the top at one point, Wade Barrett, The Miz. You know, you look at 3 people like that that came from WWE's developmental system, and they were at the top at one point, and you just wonder if these guys I'm mentioning, you know, here, like the Shield, Sandow, Fandango, some of them already are. You just wonder if those guys are going to be at the bottom of the barrel like Ryback, Wade Barrett, and The Miz are right now. And that is the problem in WWE right now in creating new stars. They desperately need to create some new stars, but it seems like they've got the platform to do it. They put them in big spots, but it doesn't seem like they can just create that finished article. I mean, you look at a guy like John Cena, he's always in the main event. You look at a guy like The Miz. He was involved in main events from late 2010 to early 2011, and then late 2011, and then he just like went off the pot a little bit and was in, you know, King of the Pre-Shows. You know, how does that happen? How does John Cena stay up there, yet Miz goes there to down there? You know, that guy's a star, this guy isn't. It's pretty simple mathematics there. So yeah, I mean, I'd like for you to just give me your thoughts on all this stuff that I talked about. You know, people, who do you think can come through NXT to be a star on the roster? You know, who do you think right now on the WWE roster could be a star for WWE? What is WWE's problem when it comes to making new stars? I think that's an interesting topic, so let's go with it. Put your thoughts in the comment section below, please. Apparently, Sami Zayn versus Leo Kruger next week is going to be a 2 out of 3 falls match. So we're going to be starting off the new year with a bang, according to Sami Zayn. That should be a pretty decent match. I mean, they've carried on this feud for a while. I think it's a bit premature to end this feud, in my opinion, but it should be a good match. And then Sami Zayn did say in a backstage segment that his focus after this will be on the NXT Championship, and that can only be a good thing. So next week's New Year show should be pretty good, in my opinion. So now it's time to talk about the only match on this show and the main event of the show, a match I've been looking forward to ever since I found out it was going to happen. Antonio Cesaro versus William Regal. Wow. Firstly, I just want to talk quickly about this storyline and how it's come about to this point. I don't think this storyline has necessarily been built up incredibly great. It doesn't really feel like a massive blood feud like, for example, Regal and Ambrose did, or Regal and Cassius Ohno did. They've kind of built this up very subtly, and to be honest, I felt they had at least another month's build left in it to try and put heat between these two. But I think the pre-match interviews did a good job in, you know, establishing why these two are facing off. You had Cesaro saying how much of an inspiration William Regal was, but you know, how he got his job in WWE, but now there is only room for one of them. He's the younger and faster and better man and better technical wrestler. You know, you had William Regal admitting Cesaro was better, but he will fight nonetheless. So the two pre-match promos they both did a good job in setting up this match. Now, the one thing I liked about this match, which I'm guessing a lot of you will like about this match, is it was very unique. You don't see matches like this happen very often in WWE. It can only really be done by a certain few people. And I'm all for variety. You know, I don't want to be seeing high spots on a week in, week out basis. I like it when WWE mix things up. And even if it, you know, doesn't really happen that often, having a bit of, you know, this kind of style wrestling always goes down a treat because it's just something different. You know, the match seemed to go in stages. You had the start off phase where it was old school technical style mat wrestling, and then it developed into this psychological battle with Cesaro going after the knee, and we had a few Regal hope spots and uppercuts in there, and then Regal going after Cesaro's arms. And I really loved the selling in this match as well, how real this selling felt. When Cesaro hit William Regal's knee, god damn, I actually thought William Regal hurt his knee. That's how good the selling was here. And when Cesaro was trying to, you know, get some feeling back in his arms, that's the kind of stuff that sells me on a match. That's the kind of stuff that makes me, at least for a couple of seconds, think, shit, this is kind of real. And it really does. And it's up to the wrestlers sometimes and the psychology to try and get me invested. And it shows you don't need to do high spots to try and get people invested. It's good psychology and realism sometimes that can get people invested. You know, and then Cesaro towards the end got quite cocky. You had William Regal coming back. And then I liked how towards the end, Cesaro sort of hesitated, you know, before delivering the final blow, kind of like Shawn Michaels did with Ric Flair on his final match. And then he delivers the final blow and puts him out of his misery. You know, I thought the way this match was structured, starting off with the old school wrestling style, technical mat wrestling style, then working into a more psychological battle, which is always, you know, the best thing to do when Regal is in the ring with you, and then ending it with a kind of a story, you know, the newcomer wanting to take out the veteran, but not sure if he's got, like, you know, if he can deliver the final blow, but ends up doing it. The main thing is Cesaro beat William Regal. Now, if this was on Raw or SmackDown, this would have been like a 2-minute squash match. But because it's on NXT, it actually has some entertainment value in it, and they built it up and made it seem like a big deal. That's what I like about NXT. They make these things that wouldn't feel like a big deal on Raw or SmackDown feel like a big damn deal on NXT. And at the end, when they shake hands and show respect for each other after the match, you know, okay, yeah, I don't mind that. I wonder if maybe down the line they're thinking about turning Cesaro face. I think if Cesaro was heel and they were going to stick him as heel, there's no way you would have done that. But I guess from a wrestling fan standpoint, it was nice to see these two, you know, who are kind of models of each other, you know, back in the day or whatever. It's good to show them shaking hands and having respect for each other. Overall, even though the crowd weren't really fully into this, I don't think they were expecting this kind of battle. So, to me, it was quite enjoyable to watch, even though my internet sucked and it kept pausing every 5 seconds. But it was still somewhat enjoyable for me to watch because I could appreciate exactly what was going on in the ring. Maybe casual fans really wouldn't appreciate it, but me as a wrestling fan, I did. And to me, that is what matters. So overall, I think this has been a very good year for NXT. Last year, it started off as just a show showing developmental talent, and then it actually started to grow into a show where there were storylines. There was an NXT Championship, a Tag Team Championship, and a Women's Championship. And to be honest, like I've been saying many times in my opinion, NXT is the best hour wrestling show out there in my opinion. The most consistent show, the most entertaining show. And I think personally, it's the show with the best characters. I said not necessarily the best characters, but unique characters. And there's different characters all over the place. And it just makes the show, you know, it just gives the show a little bit more variety. And it gives it a better feel, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to this year of NXT and seeing who's come out of NXT onto the main roster. I'm really looking forward going into next year to see who is going to, you know, be the stars of NXT and who is actually going to go to the WWE roster down the line. I'm looking forward to NXT in 2014, and I hope you guys are too. I'll continue doing these reviews for sure. I don't care what happens. I'm still reviewing NXT, brother. So give me your thoughts on this show down below, mainly on the main event. And if you have any thoughts on what I said in the, you know, in the first segment of the show where I talked about the NXT superstars and who will make it to the WWE roster and, you know, how I felt WWE weren't really making stars, please give me your thoughts on that in the comment section below. It's been me, Mr. Parkin, this Christmas Day edition of NXT. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.